My mother read my diary out loud at dinner. She turned my first love and my darkest secrets into a family comedy routine, and I sat there with my fork hovering in midair as everybody laughed. I can still hear the ice clinking in her glass, the way she cleared her throat as if preparing to make a toast. My brother kept shoveling salad while peeking up to watch me. My dad leaned back in his chair, amused, the way dads get when they think something is teenage drama. And me, 19 fork holes in a napkin under my palm, legs buzzing like I'd slammed one too many cold brews, trying to figure out if this was a dream or just my life, finally saying the quiet parts aloud. This is a late-at-night kind of story, the kind you tell when the refrigerator is humming and the living room lights are low. The kind where I'm going to be starting and stopping a lot because it still gets caught in my throat, even now. But you clicked for a true one, so here goes. The thing about my mom is, she was everything when I was growing up. Big laugh, big hair, big plans. Bake sale queen. The woman who knew every teacher and exactly which parking space to navigate into at Target so that we could beat the rush. When I was 8, she picked out my first diary. Pink imitation leather, tiny lock that could be opened with a paper clip. She put it in my lap and said, "Write it down, honey. Your thoughts matter. And also, it keeps you from chewing my ear off when I'm on the phone." She winked and I grasped the diary like it was alive. Writing became this secret whisper form space where my mind could go when the house was too loud. It was a way of not allowing the world to rattle me apart. When middle school rolled around and my skin did the pizza thing and my body turned into something that people had opinions on, the diary is where I figured it out. I grew up in a family where talking about feelings would be we'd try a new brand of cereal and call it a day. So I wrote and wrote, small loops of handwriting slanting, pen stains on my fingers, ink blots like little bruises on the page where I'd pressed too hard. My freshman year of high school, I graduated to black and white composition notebooks because they were cheap and felt less like I was playing dress up. I kept them under my mattress, third slat from the foot, because in movies that's where you hide things. My mom cleaned, she was a cleaner, and I thought she'd never. She'd say, "You can tell me anything," when she was kneading bread or folding clothes, her voice all we're a team, although sometimes if I did tell her something, she'd act like I'd placed a burning match in her hand. I had a crush on this boy, Jacob. He had hair that couldn't decide what it wanted to do and always smelled like fresh laundry. He'd tilt his head when he listened to you like you were the season finale, and he was trying not to blink. I wrote in my notebook his hands and his laughter, and the way he used the word anyway, as though he was putting a full stop at the end of the world. I wrote about how much I disliked my shoulders and how I wished I could zip myself into another skin, or skip years like songs to reach the section of the album where I finally sounded like the person I was trying to be. 1 month prior to the dinner, the first strange thing occurred. I'd spent the day at school and come home to the lemon cleaner smell that meant Mom had been on a rampage. Vacuum lines in the carpet all perfectly parallel, even couch cushions standing at attention. I dropped my backpack and went to my room. My notebook was where I'd left it, but off by a hair. The corner that was hidden under the seam of the mattress was revealed like a tongue sticking out. Nothing, I told myself. That's what people who want to go on living do. They explain things to themselves until the corners are rounded. I tugged it out and I could feel the invisible fingers in it. Pages that were tightly closed felt airy. I opened my book to my page, and the red ribbon from a Christmas gift Mom had wrapped that I used to mark pages was one spread ahead of where I was sure I'd left it. My stomach did the roller coaster upsweep dive. "You're not a detective," I told myself. I must have moved it when I was in such a rush this morning. Maybe. That night at dinner, Mom made chicken parmesan. My absolute favorite. The crust crunched just right, sauce sweet with that touch of basil. She kept glancing at me like she was trying not to grin. "So," she said too casually, "how's school?" "Fine," I said, which was our code for "we can be quiet now." "Did you bring up your math grade?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, spearing some chicken with my fork, not meeting her eyes. I was waiting for her to say my big-mouth teacher's name, since I'd called him the human chalkboard in my notebook and made a joke about his shoes. She didn't. Instead, she said, "I almost picked up that strawberry lip balm you love at the store," and smiled across her glass. But then I thought, someone's been saving up for a new notebook. My fork paused in midair. My heart did that funny little clutch. Strawberry lip balm was nowhere in a conversation we'd had out loud. It was in a sentence I'd written the night before. I felt weird buying strawberry lip balm because it seems like middle school, but it makes me happy. A toss-off. Nothing. But moms have a sixth sense, don't they? That's what I was thinking. She knows because she found it in the bathroom trash. Because she's heard me digging through drawers. I gave it a shot. That night, in the notebook, I had written one sentence under a tiny star, thinking about getting bangs. The next morning, as we stood waiting for the toaster to coax the bagels into being, Mom looked me dead in the eye and said, "Bangs don't work for our face type, sweetie. Trust me." She punched the toaster button like a period. Figured that one out in 97. Coincidence? Perhaps. I tried another. After a day of feeling like someone had squished me into wet cement, I got into bed, put on a hoodie, and wrote, "I don't want to go to homecoming, but I want Jacob to ask me anyway, because I want the story." I always want the story. I double underlined it. I pushed the notebook in an inch more than usual. 2 days later in the car, Mom said, as though reading from a grocery list, "Hey, if you're not in the mood for homecoming, we can have a girls' night. Movies, face masks. You don't always need a story." I stared at the glove compartment. The AC was blowing cold into the dashboard like it was attempting to fill a void that wasn't even there. "Okay," I said. We drove through the static of regular radio, and she sang along to a song she'd liked in college. And I swallowed, chewed, swallowed 100 times because there wasn't any other explanation that didn't feel like betrayal. My mom was reading my diary. My mom who bought me the first one. My mom who bought me strange-colored pens and future author mugs as a joke. My mom who said to me, "Privacy is respect." I needed to take one more test. Fine. A stupid one. In block letters on a blank page, I wrote, "I left $20 taped under my desk." I didn't. I taped a clean sheet of paper there instead. The next day, my desk was dusted. The tape was peeled up and reapplied. I stood and stared at the nothing under the wood, the tiny oval of leftover tackiness like a bruise. Heat spread up my neck. If I were paper, you could have read me through. The night of the dinner, the table was arranged like a fancy magazine page, cloth napkins, honey-smelling candles, my dad's music playing in the background, some old Motown record he loves. Mom had made spaghetti. She always made a ton, like she believed in leftovers as a lifestyle. My brother threw some on the wall to see if it would stick. We laughed. I breathed in. Okay, we can be normal. We can hold the ceiling up with our bare hands and call it normal. Then she did this little clink-clink with her fork against her water glass. "You know what," she said to my dad, "we should go around and say a hi and a low about our day." Our eyes met. She smiled. "I'll go first." She launched into this anecdote about this woman in the bank line who tried to cash in expired coupons, and we all grinned. And then, like she'd just remembered something, she glanced over at me and said, as breezy as can be, "Kay has a crush." My fork dropped. It rang against the plate more loudly than it had to. I felt the blush on my face. The lamp seemed to get brighter. My ears rushed like I had put my head underwater. A crush is nothing. A crush is not a crime. But the way she said it, "Kay has a crush," was like standing me naked in the middle of the room. My brother smirked. On Jacob, he guessed, because apparently he's a mind reader, or I'm pitiably obvious. I tried to laugh. "No, Mom's voice cut in, high and delighted, as if she was reading an excerpt from a book club pic. "He smells like laundry," she trilled, and even did a little sniffing motion. "And he says anyway, like he's putting a period at the end of the world." Silence. I could hear the sizzle on the stove in the other room. I could hear my own blood, a dull drumbeat in my ears. She was quoting me. She was quoting my own words back at me. Not just the content. The cadence. The exact phrase. And that was not all. She laughed and said to me, "Don't worry, sweetie, we won't embarrass you at homecoming," then turned to my dad and said, "She doesn't even want to go. She just wants the story." She raised an eyebrow like she'd made a clever remark. She always wants the story. My dad laughed the way dads laugh when they're not getting the rules, and it's okay to laugh too. "Who doesn't?" he said. "Story makes life fun." He raised his glass in my direction like a toast. It was like a rug that was actually a bridge got pulled. My brother's mouth had the weird half-smile it has when he sees something he can't find a name for. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I swallowed a big gulp of water and half-choked, watering eyes. The room reeled. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly on the floor. "I'm not hungry," I said, but my voice cracked on the second word, and that was the death knell to the moment. I didn't exactly run. I just walked fast, like a person who has suddenly remembered a pot on the stove. I spaced out. Down the hall. My room was too bright. I shut the door and leaned my forehead against it, the wood grain pressing into my forehead. My body was a fist. I could still hear her voice, my voice in her voice, and something in me went click, a little clicking sound, like turning off a light that you never turn on again. I reached underneath the mattress for my notebook. I opened it to the page with the strawberry lip balm. Literally the sentence. I felt weird buying strawberry lip balm because it feels like middle school, but it makes me happy. And there, in the margin, was a faint fingerprint of something, perhaps sauce, perhaps oil, perhaps just time. Not mine. Not this time. I closed it. I pressed it to my chest. It didn't feel like it belonged to me anymore. Neither did my chest. Mom knocked on my door. "'Kay, honey." She opened it like a courtroom door. "Oh, come on." We were just laughing. "Don't be dramatic." The word dramatic ricocheted off every wall. If you're a girl and you love words, dramatic is the leash you get handed when the words go the wrong place. "You read my diary," I said to her without looking at her. I didn't shout. Perhaps if I shouted, it would have been a relief. I simply said it like the weather. Because sometimes the truth is like that. A forecast you never requested. "Honey," she said, sunshine in her voice. I searched. "You leave it out. It's my house. I need to know what's going on with you. Parents today, you hear about pills and..." "It's not your house," I said, but I wasn't talking about the house. "It's my mind." She sighed. She came into my room like I'd invited her, and I recalled that I didn't have any doors. "Not really. I'm your mother. I'd do anything to keep you safe. And also, come on, some of it is just cute. You'll laugh someday." We didn't talk after that. She closed the door with exaggerated gentleness. Maybe she was in a generous mood. Maybe she felt guilty, but not enough to admit it. I just sat there with my notebook and cried like my face had a new language to learn. I could feel it. The shutting down. The blackout seeping across a map. The twist, I didn't know it was a twist at the time, came 3 days later. We went to my aunt's house for a birthday dinner. Adults stood at the kitchen island with stemless wine glasses. Kids, me, brother, cousins, hung out in the basement where the air smelled like old carpet and dryer sheets. I made small talk, pretended to scroll, felt the whole world like it was behind glass. Upstairs, I heard a laugh, the particular sound of the laugh my mom makes when she thinks she's come up with a good line. Then my aunt's voice, with the high interest it always has when she's angry. "She wrote that? Word for word? Oh my God, that's like something in a book." Noise in my ears. I stood at the bottom of the stairs and stood in the shadow, like a creep. I know. I heard pages turning. The quiet shhh of paper against paper. Someone said, "Just read it," and my mom said, okay, and then she read a paragraph. My paragraph. The one where I'd called myself a snow globe shaking itself. The one where I'd written that I didn't yet feel like a person, but only a sketch someone hasn't yet decided to ink. My aunt laughed and said, "She's 16, Kathy. They all feel that way." I went upstairs. I didn't mean to. I just did. They shut up when they saw me. Mom's face was flushed in a way that could have been wine or happiness or being caught. On the island was a printed page. Pastel border. My words in 12-point font, double-spaced, like an essay. Title at the top, Notes from the Teenage Mind. Bullet points below it, quotes. My quotes. She had curated me. "What's that?" I said. Not a question. My voice dropped flat on the counter. "Kay," my mom said, hand over the page like she could tuck it under a placemat and make it disappear. "It's just for my coffee group. We're doing a thing on modern parenting. It's anonymous." I read the first line. It began with "Dear Diary," which I hadn't written since I was 10. They didn't know, and that was worse. They thought of me like I was a character on television. Young girl. They'd place me in a slot where any story told about me was representative to them. Inspirational programming. Mom's coffee clutch. The mothers on the block. The mothers who all knew me by name and asked to see my report cards. "This isn't anonymous," I said. "That's not even the point." "Babe," my aunt began. I held up a shaking hand. "Please don't," I begged, and something in my tone caused her to stop. A small miracle. "Kay, you're being dramatic," my mom said, again with that word. "This is what community is about. We share. We learn. I didn't sign your name up. And even if I had, you're not writing anything you wouldn't want me to see. You're living in my house." "Do I?" I replied. "Not the house again. Because it feels like I don't live anywhere." They gazed at me. Someone laughed in the other room, oblivious. The television downstairs shrieked about a touchdown. I made my escape before my face could do what faces do when they accumulate too much electricity within them. I escaped outside. It was chilly enough that my breath made ghosts. I sat on the back steps and shook. That was when I gave up writing. I did not make any announcement to myself. I burnt nothing nor took a vow. I just didn't. Whenever my hand moved toward a pen, my shoulder would tighten, and I'd catch her laughter and see that printed page, and the words would shrink before I could even pull them out from where they lived. That year, I shrunk smaller. That's the best I can describe. Not in body, God no. I still ate pancakes at 2 a.m. and fell asleep in front of trash TV. But inside, the curious bits of me started checking the locks instead. I caught myself practicing my facial expressions in the mirror. I left texts unanswered. I sat in class and talked in the wrong verbs out loud on purpose so nobody would suspect I cared. I turned down homecoming without even an excuse. Jacob asked someone else because he wasn't a mind reader and because the world keeps turning even after yours stops. I said I was too old for it and then cried in the shower until the water got cold. Mom kept shoving notebooks my way on Saturday mornings, cute covers with blossoms, ones with phrases such as she believed she could, so she did. She'd be all, remember how much you love to write, sing song, like a mother bird pushing a chick toward the air. I wanted to break every pen in the world. I wanted to hug her so hard she got it and also push her so hard she finally felt it. You know? Senior year, college acceptance letters came, and I chose one distant enough that visits would have to be planned, with a layover. My mom cried and planned a dorm shopping spree and made a slideshow for my graduation party with that song that makes everyone get choked up, and she hugged me for a long time in the driveway the day I was leaving and said, "Call me if you ever need anything." I got on the plane and I clutched the seat arms and I tried to leave the years behind me like you would a jacket in a closet that you never use. College was loud. It was loud and I dug into the noise. I cranked out papers like a machine. I filled up a notes app with shopping lists and assignments, but not emotions. I dated guys who didn't read books. I slept in braids since it made me feel like a child again. I did everything except the one thing that once was the thing. 2 years in, I enrolled in a writing course since I was required an elective and it was held late, and I admired the shoes of the professor. On the first day, she said, "A journal is not a confession booth, and it's not a performance. It's a place in yourself that you get to sit down." We read pieces all semester that were like someone was turning a switch on a lamp in my chest. For the first time in forever, I set the timer for 7 minutes and I just dumped. She didn't collect them. Nobody looked. I buried the pages deep in a folder on my laptop beneath a boring title. And then one day I wrote about my mother. I wrote how I would shed my body like a coat over the back of a chair when she entered my room. I wrote about the spaghetti and the printed page and the bang phrase and the strawberry lip balm. I wrote, I learned the shape of my mother's curiosity before I learned the shape of my own boundaries, and I read it back, and I had to get up from the couch and walk around my apartment because my legs were buzzing, and I had that too much caffeine heart that said, "This matters." Junior year Thanksgiving, I went home. I very nearly didn't. I told myself I was too busy. But the thing was, I wanted to see if I could sit at that table and be in my body and not lie to myself the whole time. The house was the same, lemons and all. The vacuum lines had faded because time does that, even to neurosis. My mom had new curtains. We hugged like people who weren't sure where to put their arms. At dinner, she did the clink thing again, this little MC gesture she thinks is cute. I saw it coming, like the glass was a red flag on a tree. But she only said, "Your aunt's dog got a sweater," and told a story about a raccoon in the trash. I breathed. I could eat again. We were at the sink after dinner, plates beneath hot water. Steam rose like mist off a river. She dried her hands on a towel. I was rummaging through a box in the garage, she said, her eyes somewhere near my mouth region, as though my eyes were too hot to gaze into. "Your old diaries." She laughed, small, almost apologetic. "Do you recall the little lock?" God, you were so serious. I dried a plate slowly. "Don't," I said. She put both her hands on the counter. Took a breath. "I know," she said. Her mouth did this little thing that was nearly a flinch. "I know you don't want me to read them." My body tightened in anticipation of the but. I could feel it. "But..." "And I did," she said. Flinch again. "I did read them then. And I was wrong." The words came out with a weight I haven't heard from her since I was maybe 6, and she apologized for missing a recital because my brother had a fever. I thought it was my job to know everything. And I made you into a story to make it easier. For me. I'm sorry. I blinked. Plates. Soap. My hands. The kitchen light had that whine it gets when it's trying hard. My first reaction was reflex, a joke, to bail her out. Your coffee group got good content out of it. The old me would have laughed. I didn't. She nodded, a little, toward the sink. They did. She looked up at me, and there it was. I won't quite say understanding. Not yet, but at least a door in her face I hadn't seen open before. I don't know how to fix it, she said. But I want to try. I didn't say, it would have been nice if you'd said that then. I didn't say a lot of things. But I didn't let it disappear like a one-time thing either. Here's how I said, surprising myself that I knew. If I give you something, it's yours. If I don't give you something, it's not. Even if you can reach it. Even if you're scared. And if I tell you I don't want something discussed at the table, you don't discuss it. Her face, oh, her face, did something akin to fear and relief combined. Okay, she said. Okay. She didn't excuse herself. She didn't tell me I was overreacting. She didn't say, it's my roof. She said okay. And then we did the dishes there like people who are present in the moment they're in, not the one they wish for. That doesn't mean I immediately forgave her. If this were a film, we'd hug and the credits would roll. In real life, I went back to school and we had good weeks and bad weeks. She sent me a journal in a care package with a note that said, only if you want. Even if you want to hide it from me. And I set it on a shelf and eyed it from time to time like it was going to blow up. I moved into my own apartment with a door that shut with a key that was mine alone. I started writing again, not every day, but often enough that when I didn't, I missed it like a person. I wrote about the cat that lives on our stoop and refuses to look anyone in the eye. I wrote of the way my friend Lily laughs as if she's just been told how to breathe again. I wrote of Jacob, who I met at a wedding and still smelled like laundry, impossibly, and how we slow danced and didn't talk, and it didn't ruin me, which was a step forward. And then, finally, I did write about that dinner. I didn't write it as a scene to be acted, but as something that happened that made me. And then last year, I called my mom and said I was thinking of telling the story publicly. Not because I want to hurt you, I told her. Because I don't want to hurt me by not saying it. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, okay. And then, because she is who she is, she said, don't make me sound too mean. But you tell it the way you have to tell it. Here's what I realized, at last, at 26 with a lease and a clearance couch and spices I bought intentionally. Writing is not betrayal. Telling is not a sin. Curiosity without consent isn't love. And whoever says the story is theirs because they happen to be in the room when it went down is lying, even if they don't know it. There is some part of me that still checks the locks. That part is a little girl, pink diary hugged to her chest on the bedroom floor, struggling to figure out how to live through the people she loves. But another part of me, a larger part now, sits down with myself for 7 minutes and allows my hand to move. That part says, come in. Sit. No one will read over your shoulder without your permission. I didn't get the strawberry lip balm for a while because it felt immature to want something after someone made fun of the wanting. Last month at the pharmacy, I saw it in a little jar by the checkout. I put it in my basket. I bought it. I held it in my pocket on the way home, this small foolish treasure. And when I got to my apartment and shut my actual door and put my keys in the bowl where they go, I opened it and used some. I smelled sugar and fake strawberry and something almost like forgiveness. Not the sort you give to another person. The sort you give your own mouth for shutting up. If you've experienced anything like that, I'd absolutely love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this story resonated with you even a little bit, don't be shy to like, subscribe, and hit that bell.